Attention, please. It's time for the final countdown. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's rock.
Welcome to week 3 of college football season, guys. This was a wild one. I'm joining in with my guest, Andrew. And Andrew, what did you see out of these games? It was unbelievable.
There's a lot of headlines, man. I'd say biggest headline I'd say today is Sunbelt East Conference, man. 2 teams from the Sun Belt, not only the Sun Belt, the Sunbelt East Conference, take down top 10 opponents. That's got to be a first, John.
Oh, I mean, it certainly does. And we start with Appalachian State knocking off number 6 Texas A&M. What do we make of that game? I mean, they were a 63-61 loss to North Carolina last week. They bounce back. They knock off number 6 Texas A&M in College Station. That is a huge win for Appalachian State.
You know, it just gives me glimpses of 07, man, when Michigan put Appalachian State on the map. You know, that 34-32 game, and it just so happens that fate worked out this way. A blocked field goal by Appalachian State once again to seal this victory. You know, like I said, we were talking before, like Paul Crew in Longest Yard, played by Adam Sandler, he even mentions how they had a ramp-up game. Usually we play a team like Appalachian State, and Appalachian State is not a warm-up game that you want to have, and it hasn't been that way in 15 years since they put them on the map like this, man. And then to follow up, I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off, John.
I mean, it's one of those games where Texas A&M's a favorite. They're an 18-point favorite going into that game at home, but that's a team that's true freshmen. I mean, Jimbo Fisher's building that team off of a loaded recruiting class, but you have a veteran at Appalachian State, and they wanted to make a statement. They certainly did. 17-14, held them scoreless for the last 2 quarters. That's a big win.
Huge win, man. And you know, the crazy thing is, I was looking ahead at where does Texas A&M go through here? John, their schedule is insane. What if they wake up, Jimbo gets the troops ready, and they run the table, man? They're in the playoff. They face off against Alabama. They face off against Tennessee, I believe, Arkansas. Miami. They have to play 15-ranked Miami next week. Even though they just lost to this team, they're not out of it, though. And now I can't say this. To lead into this, though, I can't say the same for my Fighting Irish. Unfortunately, our playoff hopes.
So we died. I mean, we got to dive into that game next, and I know it hurts your heart, Andrew. We got a true Irish fan up here, and he's a little bit sad about it. I mean, they're 0-2 on the season. Their new head coach, he's now 0-3 in his debut, carrying over to last year. But Thunder and Herd got the best of the Irish. That was a close game, but ultimately Marshall kind of took control of Notre Dame.
They were Marshall today, John. I'll tell you that much. You know, so the Thundering Herd, man, it's just same story. Notre Dame, you know, I don't know if it was a hangover, and we took last week as a small victory, having that lead so late into the second half against the Buckeyes, and I did take it as a small victory. And I was talking to you last week when we were on the golf course, and I'm like, man, we go 11-1, man. Like that's Marshall, easy win, man. That ain't worried about that. And then we're just gonna go ahead
and a little hangover here.
What's that?
Could be a little bit of a hangover too,
Yeah.
getting off the Ohio State loss, but like being within contention and then, oh yeah, we're better than most people expect, and then losing this game.
I like Freeman a lot, man, and maybe this is what he needed. The one thing we're missing there is a 5-star recruit quarterback, and I hope that he can bring that to us. I hope, schedule doesn't get any easier. I'll go ahead and jump in and lead with it. We got to face off against BYU here in a few weeks, man, and holy crap, man. The Brigham Young Cougars are the real deal, and they've been on the rise for the past couple seasons. I mean, you got Zach Wilson starting quarterback for the New York Jets.
You jumped right into that, and I mean, obviously, you just mentioned that Zach Wilson, who's playing for the New York Jets, he was one of their top quarterbacks, and that's a game where you talk about their stardom. That's a BYU team that is ranked number 21, that's hosting number 9 Baylor, but they're a 3-point favorite at home. You're hosting a team that's ranked way ahead of you, but you're still the favorite. And they took care of business tonight. They beat Baylor 26-20 in overtime. Baylor's quarterback sailed one over the top of his receiver's head, got away from him. They won in overtime. Fans were going crazy. Electric atmosphere there for BYU. This is a team, I looked at their schedule, Andrew, and I think you could agree, they could make a push for a playoff. They really could.
They got John. That's exactly, you read my mind, man. Like that. You said your sleeper was Baylor. We're looking at a team that could make a run that nobody's really thinking about, and that was your team. Your early pick. Well, BYU just jumped into that seat, man. They got to be moving up. I'd say at least top 15. At least with this next poll that comes out, I'll be surprised if they don't. But they got Oregon next week, Wyoming, and then Utah State. I don't see any issues there. Then they got My Fighting Irish, man. Then after that, they got Arkansas. And then leading up with that, they're going to end their season against Stanford, who did actually put up a decent fight against USC today. If they win out here, man, they're going to have a case.
I mean, you got to like that Notre Dame's still going to be in the rankings after that. Even after the loss to Marshall, they're still going to find their way in the rankings, even if they're low 20s, mid 15s. And if BYU wins that game, BYU's definitely a contender in there. And obviously, they win a conference title. You got to throw them in the mix a little bit.
Yeah, man. No, most definitely. And, kind of tying back into the Thundering Herd and We Are Marshall, I'm sure Matthew McConaughey was excited today, but his Longhorns could not get it done, man. But holy crap, that is another thing, a small victory, I would say, for the Longhorns. I did not see this game being that close. Their starting quarterback gets injured early in the game, man. And 20-19, after being a 20-point favorite going into this, good for the Longhorns, man. Maybe it's a sign of things to come. And then they got the Golden Boy coming in here in the next year or two as well. So what did you think about that game?
That's one of those things. So that was a game that some people could say, hey, I worked late Friday night. I'm going to sleep in, and you sleep in through halftime, or you sleep in through the third quarter. It's one of those games where you don't really wake up because it's not a prime time game. That's Alabama, Texas, 20-point favorite, Alabama number 1, Texas unranked. Holy cow. Was that not the best game of the freaking day? I think that was, even though the score didn't, favor Texas as an upset, and Alabama still won the game. But that was a 1-point game, and they won on a in the closing minutes field goal. But Texas very well could have won that game with a few stops here and there. That was a game that Alabama had to really grind out to hold on to that number 1 position, and Texas gave everything they had.
It's just like I've told you in the past, man. It reminded me so much of that Iron Bowl last year in Week 10, Auburn, that game was over. I was so excited because my Irish were number 5, and that would have bumped them in. We would have got into the playoff if they. I was like, yes, They're going to lose their second game. Bama's going down. Auburn's going to beat them, man. And then somehow they find a way. They find a way. They win in 4 overtimes with the new 2-point conversion rule, 24-22. They did the same thing today, man. And, they say you create your own luck, and that's what they find a way to do. The ball bounces their way. They don't give up. And Bryce Young goes ahead and scrambles outside the pocket after he had a tough day at the office, man, stayed mentally strong, rushes for 26 yards, gets them into field goal range, and they win the game. And at the end of the day, their sample size and their microscope is so much smaller than some of these other teams because it'll be forgotten about. If they win a national championship, that's all that matters.
Well, in credit to Texas, this is a game where you're a 20-point underdog, 20 and a half point underdog, but you come into this game thinking you're still wanting to win the game. I shouldn't say, the Nationals' perspective is not really thinking you can win this game, but you're holding high standards for yourself. Your quarterback gets injured. He lands right on his shoulder after a hard hit. He goes out. You got your backup quarterback who ends up leading your team down the field. You're right within range to win this game. I'm talking a 1-point loss is a big win for Texas. I think they should walk away holding their heads high.
But, then we'll see Texas play a slouch down the road and get beat by 30 points. That just seems to be the narrative, but maybe they'll change it this year. I don't know. I love that color. I love that burnt orange, man. Just something about it. I always have had a sweet spot for that. So when Texas football is good, it's good for college football, man. And I hope that they can get back to that. And that will do it for this week's College Football Week 3 podcast breakdown. That was John Camosa and Andrew Zeiser. Tune in again next week for our Week 4 breakdown. Thank you.